This one here is about inner vows. People make vows within. I mean, like even in a marriage, that a marriage is, and a lot of what we see with the ceremony of marriage is, we do it in front of people, or people do it in front of people, and they make these thing called vows, right? Well, consensus says that many people actually carry through on them because it takes two to carry those vows through, right? Vows are an honor system, and we, as human beings, we are going to make certain vows, and most of the vows that we are going to make is usually after a hard hit to our lives, whether it be through other people, whether it be situations, whether it be even just like growing up in an environment. And the hard things is really where we do a lot of deep introspection. It's not during the good things. The good things you enjoy, you kind of like, you're a little more, how can I put it? You're a little more floaty, a little more shallower because you don't really have a whole lot to worry about. So you kind of just, you're on cruise control, right? But when you're making inner vows in the inside, something happens. You shift from automatic to the manual drive mode. And you're very concerned about how you're going to shift. And you're more controlling about the gears in your life and the gas you're going to apply. And I'm talking in the sense of driving a manual vehicle, driving manual standard, right? You want to be more in control because you say to yourself, oh, wait a second, I allowed things to happen to me in my life, and it seems like I was an automatic, and it didn't really go as well as I thought. When you're making inner vows in the inside, it's because you don't want those things to happen again. You basically, somewhere deep down inside, you get stomping mad enough or stomped enough to make a choice. A certain things are going to be a certain way in the future, and I'm not going to let this happen again. The thing is about inner vows, there's some people who get involved in it on a deeper level. Then when after they've gotten hit in their life, yeah, I mean, and, yeah, let me just say that I really do think sometimes we're not as perfect as we would have liked to have been, and we do have a part that we play, whether it's something we willfully went into or whether we were just basically guided and controlled in automatic, yeah, with certain beliefs that we held onto, that we didn't realize those beliefs were living inside of us so much to the point that it was easy to make those moves that we made. Those moves that really just didn't really take us in the right place or didn't really position us for better. Um, One of the things about inner vows is that there's some people who make them and they make them out of bitterness, and it's called bitterness expectancy. Right? I've heard that term like back in the 80s, and I really, my ears really clung to that because I've met people who will be so adamant and they're so to the point of it flexible, and they've made the certain expectancies that the certain things are going to be a certain way now, and it's done out of bitterness. So much so that they end up actually recalling experiences with other people that other people that doesn't have a place, a role to partake of it. So they position people to take on a role that is not rightfully theirs, and then they carry out this expectation with them. This expectation, well, you'd better get with the plan. Now they're not going to come all the way out and tell you that, but you'll find subtle ways that they will do that. They will basically get you behaving a way that you wouldn't normally behave, that you wouldn't, yeah, you wouldn't normally. The whole dynamic now is went into place of abnormality. Inner vows are really good when it's decisions you make in the inside that's going to lead you towards prosperity and towards healthiness, wellness of being, right? Because no one really wants to go through their life, and someone, while they're going through it, there's people who are more healthier look over and go, That person's got issues and I don't want to go near them. And that's the thing about being unhealthy in life, is that you can really stop a lot of good in your life, because you will people who've been there will see you and say, no, 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 you're that something is wrong with that person. I'm staying away. Right. So you don't want to really have the good stay away from you. Inner vows are always healthier when it's the kind of vows that you make within, that is you're going to be really faithful to yourself, to you. You won't betray your own trust. It's like being in a situation and you say something to the effect, "I can't believe I'm allowing this to happen," or "I can't believe this is even happening," or you're in a place you go, "Did I just submit myself to this? How did I get into this? How come I allowed that person to give me to basically snow me, to give me a snow job, and I fell for it," right? Inner vows in a right way gives you the opportunity to always not betray yourself. And that's where you want to end up in your life, to never ever betray. And what I mean by betraying you is that when you've embraced so much good values, and I mean, look, I've, I know how some of you might think, I push the Bible a lot because I really do believe that I've read it so much, and there's so much that is so simple that if you follow it, you really will have a much better life than the average person. And I'm not talking about the people who manage to use it to abuse others. They basically hold it in their hand, but they don't really know its contents. Because God says that if you sow in righteousness, you will reap in mercy. So when people are sowing with the Bible and they claim it's righteousness, but they're not merciful, and they become worser of a person, they're not sowing the right stuff. Holding something of in your hand that has power in it doesn't make you powerful, by no means, because it's got to get inside of you, right? It has to get inside. If you ever get a chance, go read the book of Proverbs. Amazing, amazing book. Like, wow, the stuff in there is so simple. I mean, like, um, you can. I'm by the way, you can read a lot of good. You can read a lot of good stuff out of the Bible, and it will not get inside, because um, you will have compromise in beliefs that will counter that. You can on an upper level say, "Oh, I agree with that. Oh, yeah, that's so true." But when push comes to shove, when the situation presents itself, you find you go into automatic, and you're actually playing out a person that you didn't. You go, "Wow, that kind of reminds me of my mom. That kind of reminds me of my father. That reminds me a whole lot of somebody I knew in the past." But and so the things that really affect you the most is going to be the effect, to have the effectual factor of your life, right? So it may take a lifetime, but making inner vows is when you're in the position, you've grown up into that position, and you have determined that the Bible even says this about the person whose mind is made up, that God answers that person. And there is a whole lot of wavering that goes on in people's lives that prevents them from having what they see in a certain part of their being that they want to have and become. There's a whole lot of other pieces of the pie that needs to be dealt with, and only God can really do that. He does it. He does it a whole lot by prayer. And one thing about the way He works in our lives, His graciousness is like He invites you. Jesus says, "I came to call the sick, not the righteous, to be completely changed to repentance." And what basically Jesus is saying right there is that there's no one that's really that completely righteous. No one. Every one of us has certain ailment within our soul, because this world is being is conformed, has been formed after the fall of Abraham, Adam, and Eve, that to be more imperfect as time went along. It didn't get better; it got worse. You know, you just got to study history to see that, to see what mankind is capable of. Because when you get them in groups, they can really be convinced to do things that you would kind of shake your head and go, "Wow, I can't believe that they did that." But the things about inner vows is that we live in a time, especially, that we can make inner vows. We can be controlled by not a collective mentality that wants us to remain as they see it, but we can be conformed on a soul level, that we are going to have inner vows that are not going to be tampered with, and those vows are always going to equate you becoming more refined, more distinguished, and more healthier as a human being. And the best above all thing is that you make those vows to protect you at all cost. Because once you are in front of somebody who's able to take you and do whatever they like with you years before in your life, you meet those people again, and wow, they can't. They can't touch you. They can't move you because you have vows inside now. That is one of the things they said about marriage vows, is that they made a commitment to each other. And you make those inner vows as a commitment that you are going to be safe, and you're going to be safe also to make vows to become more of a upright, a decent, and a righteous human being. And those vows will always be matched by God, who honors the deep, deep, deep decisions of those who want to remain upright all through their life. So I trust that was somewhat inspiring what I spoke to about today. And you all have a good day. And I would like to say, do like and subscribe. Thank you.